Peace.
Peace, black man.
Peace, peace, people, peace, people. This is True Story, the podcast, episode 3. Today I have somebody very special, somebody very near and dear to my heart. My uncle, my spiritual father, my confidant, my therapist. I look at him like, if you guys remember The Matrix, how Neo had Morpheus, I got Lord Just. You know, that's my Morpheus right there. You know, he keep me grounded. He also put the 10 days concept in perspective. He's the one who coined the knowledge cipher for me. So let's start with that. Break down knowledge cipher for me. The one and the zero.
For those supreme mathematics is what we apply in this nation. If you see the flag behind me, and we say supreme means the most high. So knowledge is your foundation. That's yourself, right? And the cipher is the world, people, places, and things. When you know your cipher, when you know it, then you can operate properly.
100%.
And if you know your cipher, then you can add on and get to the next level. But you got to know your cipher. You got to know the people, places, and things and what they can do and what they're capable of in your cipher.
100%.
And that's what's closest to you. And one is always the foundation.
Knowledge.
You know, and the other part to that is the reason I like you using the 10 days is because it's the 10th degree that says there is no mystery, God. There's nothing mysterious. And I have a saying I use all the time. There's nothing mysterious. It's just people who lack understanding. You know, you just got to investigate it to get the understanding. Once you understand it, then it's not mysterious.
Exactly. Appreciate that. So introduce yourself. You know,
Okay, a brief intro. I'm Lord Just. Historically, I'll give you some historic information. I was born in VA, raised in Harlem. I left VA when I was 7. Short story. I had to make a decision at 7 that no 7-year-old should have had to make. That decision was either to roll with my mother or my old earth, my old queen, and my siblings, or to stay with my dad. It was a tough decision for a 7-year-old. You know, because I had a strong affinity for my dad, but at the same time, I didn't want to leave my siblings.
Exactly.
So at 7 years old, my mother, we got on the Jim Crow bus where you had to sit in the back, real talk. And I didn't know that.
What year is this? Around what year is this?
1958.
Okay.
I didn't know that you had to sit in the back of the bus because I had never been on a bus like that before at 7. And so when I got on the bus, I was just like, let me just get a seat. And my mama popped me upside the head and said, yo, boy, get in the back. I was like, all these seats is here. So like, it ain't that type of party. So I was introduced to Jim Crow before I understood what it was.
Yeah.
So we left VA, got to Harlem. I didn't realize the block that I was put on was one of the most powerful blocks in Harlem. And that's 129th Street between Lenox and 7th Avenue. Now called Malcolm X Boulevard and Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard.
Okay.
So I grew up in that block, you know, and I didn't even realize how much powerful information and people were there. And curiously, it's really interesting. It was two churches in my block, a Masonic hall in my block, and we had a black doctor in the block.
And this is 129th,
so, you know, yeah, 129th between Lenox and 7th. Okay. We say, those of us in the 5% nation that grew up there, we say that that's where the knowledge and wisdom was born. Because that's 129.
Correct.
One is knowledge, 2 is wisdom, and 9 is born. And in fact, it took me a while to really get it, but I understood why they say that.
Okay. So this is the 50s, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
1958.
Okay. So tell me like a bit about your education, like your early education. I know you told me personally like about the importance of having black educators so early in your life and how how much of a role that played on you.
And who I am.
Yep.
Because I went to PS 68, which was on 128th Street, public school. We only had to walk a block to get to the school. The first teacher I remember, a lot of people don't remember, my first teacher was named Miss Flowers. And she was fine and smelled good. That's what I remember about her, right? But then from there, my third grade teacher was Miss Alexandra. And she was black and played the piano. Mm. And she had strong hands. Mm. If she grabbed you, you was grabbed. And you better not even try to get away. My fourth grade teacher was Eurocentric. Her name was Miss Hirsch. And she wore all purple all the time. Mm. The real advantage Miss Hirsch gave us, and she was probably Jewish in descent, she took me everywhere, anywhere you could ever go historically in New York City.
I remember you told me that.
Yeah, from Lincoln Center to the airport to all the museums, all the parks. She wasn't an in-class teacher. Mm. She was like, listen, we all gonna get a cultural experience and understand where you at. My fifth grade teacher was dangerous. He was the first black male teacher I had. His name was Mr. Keefe. Mm. Mr. Keefe was no joke. He was a math teacher, and if you ain't get the math, he'd get you. So, and he was a red brother, but he was really genuine in wanting us to learn. Now, these are black men and women, like I said, who probably taught because they couldn't get a job in their profession.
Okay.
They had degrees, but back then they couldn't get a job in their profession. My sixth grade teacher was named Mr. James, another male teacher. And having that influence at that age from a black man put me on point. My seventh grade teacher was Mr. Jones. He was a 6'5" black seed that was a super scientist, talked real soft. Mm. And I learned that from speaking softly, I was like, why he talks so soft? He makes you listen. Mm. You had to listen. Yeah, the other thing I learned from him was that speaking softly lets you hear what everybody else is saying. So he learned our voices by him not making a lot of noise. Mm. And I really didn't get no adverse academic, and I did well academically. I learned algebra, biology, all kinds of sciences, and I learned the sciences that most people learn in college or high school and what y'all call middle school or junior high school.
Okay.
And this science class. I was learning geometry, algebra, the real fundamentals that make you powerful, you're learning from black men and women. I had a science teacher named Mrs. Grant. We was cutting up frogs and using microscopes. You see what I'm saying? Think of a middle school today.
We don't do that.
That ain't happening. So we was getting a real Class A education, and most of these people had compassion for us. Mm.
Because they understood being black.
They was black. They had children like us.
Exactly. So it's a different.
So that make a big difference.
Okay.
I didn't really stumble upon no real delinquent difficulty till I got to the 8th grade.
Okay.
And I was in the 8-1 class, the 8-2 class. If you was in 8-1, you took 8-1 or 8-2, you took a language. Mm. So they deemed you intelligent enough to learn a language. Mm. But it just so happens that my 8th grade language teacher was a dude named Mr. Weng. W-E-N-G. But I don't know if he was he was light-skinned, but obviously he was Asian.
Yeah.
And he had a complex about adolescent males. Mm. So we ran into a lot of conflict. That whole class, that whole year was turbulent with him because he was aggressive. He tried to punk you, and we was like, we ain't going for that. You know, we come off the streets of Harlem if we got to throw down or do whatever we got to do. But he would try to get physical, but he was a grown man. I was 13 years old.
And this is still, it's still 128th Street?
No, this is Cooper, 120.
Okay.
This is junior high school. 68 is 128th Street. Cooper was 120 on 120th Street.
Okay.
Really, literally 9 blocks from where I live.
Okay.
And most of the time we walk to school. You know, a lot of our folks ain't have bus passes. You know, no matter the weather, you had to get there. But I enjoy school.
Exactly.
And most of these teachers, we had a basketball coach who played with the Harlem Globetrotters.
That's major. Yeah.
That's major.
Yeah.
We had a jazz teacher, a music teacher, that played with Art Blakely, who is a renowned jazz artist in Harlem.
And he was
So
y'all jazz teacher. He was y'all music teacher.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And a lot of people, I wanted to learn an instrument, but I wound up learning a language.
Okay. And what language was that?
Spanish, until I ran into chicken wing. That's what we used to call Mr. Wing. We call him chicken wing, like a chicken wing. Until I ran into him, my learning process was really tight.
Okay.
And then after that, they deemed me a behavior problem, tried to shoot me to the super low-level class, but it didn't matter because I was still learning.
Exactly.
And in that class, I was able to help other people learn.
Okay. Major.
So until I left Harlem, my street and academic education was pretty tight.
Exactly.
And that was in the middle, early 60s.
So set the scene for me with the 60s. You got the riots, the Vietnam War.
Well, initially, the first real uprising I saw was 1964. It was called the Harlem Fruit Stand Riot. It's recorded. If you want to look it up, it's one of the most major riots in Harlem.
It's called the Harlem
And it happened. Fruit Stand.
Fruit Stand. Okay.
Fruit Stand. Because we used to come home from school, poor, hungry, tired, whatever, and it was fruit stands. So we would do the distraction and, you know, try to jack some fruit or whatever. And from that, it escalated into a major riot. If you read about it, you know, a couple of older brothers, one lost his eye physically from fighting the police defending us. A lot of the older brothers was defending the youngsters. We was like 12, 13. They was like, yo, y'all get away from the police, go in the block. And they wound up getting into a major altercation with the New York City Police Authority.
Okay.
And I mean, it got violent to the point where people got injured and hurt bad. If you remember the movie Malcolm X, when Malcolm marched with the Muslims all the way down to the precinct, that was that riot.
Oh, that was the Harlem Fruit Stand riot.
Yeah, that was about that riot.
Okay, all right. Never knew that.
And I was able to look at it and witness it up close and personal. That's when I learned how courageous and genuine Muslim brothers and other brothers in my block was to protect us. That's another form of protection, you know, because we was, like I said, we was adolescent males and, you know, out of our mind, but we was smart and we was wise enough to listen to them.
Okay, 110%.
So that was really the first riot that I actually witnessed. Even though I should have went upstairs, you know, I'm standing in the hallway peeking, trying to see what's going on. But again, like I said, that shows again the courageous energy and spirit that I was brought up in. And I witnessed for myself. So it wasn't like I never seen people defend themselves against the white folks, defend themselves against people in authority that's trying to harm them. So I understood that if you stand strong in unity, you can kind of, you know, them people ain't all they cracked up.
Yeah. So, all right.
So that was
that
was 1964.
Okay.
1964 was one of the most powerful years historically. Just go and look. If you look up 1964 for black folks in any history book, all over the world, including South Africa, or the West Coast, the East Coast. The energy of black people is really popping. And they saying that, you know, they don't want to be called Negroes no more. They don't want to be called colored. This is when we first begin to use the expression, and a lot of people didn't like it, older people, black. You know, most around that time, because if you listen to speeches from Dr. King, listen to speeches from Malcolm, they use the term Negro, so-called Negro.
Exactly.
But as youngsters, once we was taught we was black and original men, we started to deal with that more than our elders. So that term, black man or black woman, we were the soldiers, if you will, that was able to usher that energy in.
Exactly.
Not without resistance, though.
64,
So,
all right.
Yeah, 64, 65. And also around that time, well, really later on that year, they locked up 6 brothers for another incident that happened on 125th Street, where a white person got killed. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my brothers from the Harlem 6. And all of them were followers, or they was living and trying to get under the doctrines of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm. So these was brothers in my block I would see every day. You know, older brothers, most of them 4 or 5 years older than me. And some of them was registered Muslim, some of them was FOI.
Okay.
And 64 was blazing saddles, man. I mean, really, really. So at about the end of the year, that's around the time that Malcolm and the father was, you know, leaving the temple.
Okay.
And I was able to see and hear and experience that firsthand.
Okay.
You know, on 125th Street, you know, about 125.
The Soapbox
you know,
Brothers?
Yeah. You know, they were standing, the pictures that you see, there's a picture, iconic picture of Malcolm standing, speaking and pointing. That's on 125th Street in Lenox Avenue.
Okay.
Or now Malcolm X Boulevard.
Tell me about the, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Tell me about the Vietnam War, like your experience, you know, and with that.
Well, what happened with that, you talking for me, because they had a draft.
For the Vietnam War, correct?
They had where if you was 18, you had to be, you know,
register,
go apply for the draft.
Yeah.
Register for the draft. But because I was a little delinquent and a little off, I didn't get drafted, but my brother got drafted. And a lot of brothers around me that I grew up with in my block got drafted. And a lot of them came back really, really twisted. But they also came back strapped and they come back killers. They didn't leave killers, but they came back killers. Yeah. A lot of them. So that created this the 60s, the Black Panther Party. Now when you're talking about 68, 67, a lot of these brothers coming back was like, yo, we know how to use guns. We know how to do what we need to do. And really that was the growing and development of the defense aspect of black people in Harlem anyway, and major cities.
Okay.
Where they were saying, listen, we got to defend ourselves, and we got to watch y'all too. So I was a part of that. You know, I had a few brothers to me that was in the military, and they was bringing home guns. You know, government. That's also around the same time that all the drugs was coming back from Vietnam.
The heroin, correct?
Yeah, the heroin. That coincides with that. Real close. So now you got, and a lot of them came back with drug habits.
So this is where the movie American Gangster comes, you know, and what's his name?
Yeah.
Nicky,
That's
Nicky
really
Frank Lucas.
Not Frank Lucas more than Nicky.
Yeah.
Nicky was came in on the late end, but Frank was the one and I met and talked to his brother, who was originally from Atlanta.
Okay.
Who was the one shipping the drugs back in coffins. And I spoke with him personally. I had a personal relationship understanding with him. And he was telling me, he said, man, we was getting so much money that we didn't have a clue of what to really do with it. Because it was so strong. And he was the connection for Frank from Southeast Asia. Because that's when the war was popping.
Oh, in the movie, that's the guy that he went that ushered him
That's
to
his
the
cousin.
okay,
That's
to the
his
Chinese
cousin.
guy. Okay, all right.
That's his cousin. You know what I mean? And like I said, I had a chance to have a conversation with him. I was like, yo, why y'all didn't really take this money and just buy up property? And he was like, yo, it was happening so fast. And it was happening so quick that we didn't realize how much money this really was.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So,
And again,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Continue.
So again, here is another, it's still the 60s. Now remember, after Malcolm got assassinated, Martin Luther King got assassinated, you got riots in America in all major cities from 64 to 69. Washington, D.C. was burning after after Martin Luther King got assassinated. You know, and on that note, I want to show y'all one of my shirts. This is one of my favorite shirts. It's called the 3 M's, the 3 Ministers. Minister Malcolm, Minister Martin Luther King, and Minister Ali, Muhammad Ali.
We go a long way black, baby.
We go a long way black. That's one of my major, you know, I promote that hard. And a lot of people don't realize that it was these brothers who, they was ministers, they was teachers. But at the same time, they was revolutionary.
Exactly.
They wasn't reactionary. They was more rebels. And these are the men that inspired us. These are the men that we heard in our ear. These are the men that we heard in the street. So from that inspiration, now we get the knowledge of ourselves, which is we get a chance to study under the teachings of the Father, the same lessons that the Muslims are studying in the temple, which we call 120 degrees. And once we get these lessons, now today is a good day for this interview too, because it's the 19th.
Knowledge born.
1 and 9 is what?
Knowledge born.
No, and 1 and 9 is what?
10. Knowledge cipher.
And back to the knowledge cipher. You see what I'm saying? And we was told that we would have to be the ones to save ourselves. That's when we got away from Jesus gonna save us and Jehovah. We were like, only people gonna save us is ourselves. So we began to be the saviors of ourselves by teaching that which we was given. And it was a duty that came with learning. And it said, what is the duty of a civilized person? It said the duty of a civilized person is to teach he who is a savage, civilization, righteousness, the knowledge of himself, and the science of everything in life, love, peace, and happiness.
Major.
The next degree tells you the 19th degree, which is back to your knowledge cipher, promotion. The knowledge cipher degree tells you what happens if a civilized person does not perform his duty. Because if you get a chance to learn and be saved, you're responsible for passing that on.
Exactly.
It wasn't you ain't get no pass on that. We wasn't playing that, you just get it for yourself. So when I got it, I passed it on to quite a few brothers who, to this day, still have the knowledge of the cipher, still have the knowledge that's born, still do their duty. And every man got a duty.
110%.
First to himself. Just be true to yourself, you know, and that's the thing that really empowers you. Once you accept your own duty to you, then you can be more responsible with others.
110%. Let's get into that. The 5% Nation, break that down. It started where it started, and you know how it became its own nation.
First, I'm gonna quote the degree.
Okay.
Because that's most important that we was given. It says, who is the 5% on this poor part of planet Earth? It said they are the poor righteous teachers who do not believe in the teachings of the 10%, of the slave makers of the poor. and they are all wise, and they know who the true and living God is. And they teach that the true and living God is the Son of Man, the supreme being, the black man of Asia. They also teach freedom, justice, and equality to all the human families of the planet Earth, otherwise known as civilized people, also Muslims and Muslim sons. So that degree is what we was told to empower and to live out.
Okay.
So the 5% was born from the knowledge of what the messenger taught, but the person that came in the street and taught the children was Allah. And I use the name Allah because that's what he called himself.
Exactly.
And
so,
every man got the right to self-determination. Go ahead.
For the people that don't know, who's the messenger?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Okay. So the messenger gave the information to the father. Father, like you said,
came in the street and gave it to us.
Exactly.
Which created a lot of controversy because we wasn't following the protocol that the messenger had put in place for you to become an FOI or you become a registered Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
And the father said the teachings is for everybody. So we didn't put no restrictions on it. And being young, we didn't have a lot of discipline. No, real talk.
Yeah.
See, one thing about being an FOI, being in the temple, discipline with that.
Exactly. That's the fruit of Islam, correct? The Nation of Islam.
Fruit of Islam, yeah. But because we were youthful, we didn't have those certain disciplines. And not having them caused us to suffer, but also not having them caused us not to restrict who and where we taught and what we taught.
Exactly.
So we taught in our schools,
Mm-hmm.
in high schools, we taught in colleges, we taught the younger children, we taught our mamas, we taught everybody that came in contact with.
So like y'all was the first
But
one.
that wasn't allowed in the temple.
Okay.
In order to get the knowledge, you had to come, register, follow certain protocols, sell newspapers, do the different things.
Mm.
So we took what were considered by others a renegade approach to this knowledge.
Exactly.
And the 5%ers were the vanguard of the teachings of the Nation of Islam. And when you look at hip hop, now you're in the 70s, you start to look at these young men saying the things they saying, they got that from the 5%.
Exactly. The father.
They didn't get it. They didn't get it from the temple. They got that from the high schools and the streets and the schoolyards and the basketball courts and the crap games and all the things that was going around because we taught everywhere.
Exactly.
Now what happened is corruption always sets in.
Mm.
In any organized, in any structural development, there's always, because it's build or destroy, it's both night and day. So certain people are going to misuse and abuse the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And certain people are going to take care of it. So when the 70s came in and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the messenger, as I said,
Yep.
passed away, 1975, now the corruption is even getting worse, even amongst them. Because now they're not following the teachings that the messenger put in place for 30 years.
And being that,
Because he taught from 1930 to 1974.
mm-hmm. But
And one of his last messages,
mm-hmm.
if you go and look it up, like I said, all this information is available. He said, every time you look at the black man, you're looking at God. That's what he said.
Mm.
You know, and we was already saying it.
Exactly. So when he passed away, naturally, Malcolm would have been the person, his successor, correct? But being that Malcolm stepped away.
Got killed.
Yeah, being that he wasn't there.
Malcolm got killed in 65.
Yeah, so it wasn't no natural.
See, these men is getting knocked off real hard.
Yeah.
So his son, and I don't talk bad about nobody because Allah taught us only talk about yourself.
Mm.
He said, man, when you start talking about other people, you know, that ain't necessarily the best place to be.
Exactly.
But his son, Warabdin Muhammad, changed the nation to the Bilalians, then to American Muslim Mission, and he started the Sunni teachings.
Which is the teachings of the Middle East.
Orthodox Islam.
Okay.
What they call Orthodox Islam.
Okay.
Amongst the followers, but a lot of separations took place. Because you had Minister Farrakhan, you had Silas, you had the Messenger's brother, you had a lot of people that was in the nation that disagreed, for whatever reason, with Warabdin Muhammad.
Okay.
So they begin to branch out and do the same thing that the father did in 1964. And teach it the way they saw it, the way they felt they got it from the message.
Exactly.
And that's why you got so many young people today, especially in Jersey, Philly, New York, even yourself, that got righteous names. Rashad is not Richard. You see what I'm saying?
110%.
You see what I'm saying? So that influence created a whole nother vibration amongst the people, which caused them to begin to identify more with themselves.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? And that's what we really wanted for the people.
So
you know when, go ahead.
I'm listening.
And the biggest event in the history of New York City took place in 1974 on Randall's Island.
What was that?
Where 20,000 black folks or more showed up. That was entertainers, celebrities, Shaka Khan, Kool and the Gang, Muhammad Ali showed up for a family day. That was, and that's on record. You can buy the album, whatever. That was the first Black Family Day. And what made that Black Family Day so outstanding, because I was there. I took people with me. I took my earth that I was teaching and babies, you know. With that, at the same time, you had the zebra murders, which was taking place on the West Coast.
What's that?
This is where Muslim brothers or brothers with knowledge was killing white folks.
Never knew that. The
Look it
zebra
up.
murders.
It's historical. It's historical. And they was chopping their heads and sending them to Chicago.
Why send them to Chicago?
But that was the headquarters for
the nation. Yeah. Okay. Never knew that.
And it was a lot of, again, and a lot of that came from, that's when they killed George Jackson. They assassinated a lot of the Panthers, 69, 70. Now you see this major attack on black leadership, especially radical and revolutionary black leadership.
Like Fred Hampton.
Yeah. Not just Fred, but like I said, Jonathan Jackson, George Jackson.
Medgar Evers.
The whole Panther Party was infiltrated and disseminated. And even though a lot of people don't like to admit it, a lot of the Nation of Islam was under the same conditions, was infiltrated and disseminated. And even amongst the 5%, there was agent provocateurs, people sent to get us off of the path that, you know, the father was, Allah was conservative. He told us, go to school, get an education, get a skill, and come back and build something for yourself. Because the mantra for the Nation of Islam or for black people going all the way back was do for self. Don't wait for the white folks to treat you good.
Jesus.
Because it ain't happening.
Yeah.
Your oppressor is never going to put you in power. The master don't want you to become his master.
110%.
So he's never going to give you the things you need for you to be a master to be. You got to get that for yourself. And that's the thing that we really push the hardest, you know, do for yourself. And we still push that today because back to knowledge cipher, because I want to keep this in what your theme is.
In perspective.
If you know it ain't no mystery, and you ain't looking in the sky, you ain't praying on your knees, then you know whatever got to get done is going to be on you.
110%.
And that's what we have today. And a lot of y'all young brothers are very creative and innovative, just like what you're doing now. But you gotta get the right marketing, the right skill.
Yeah. It's early, so we still learning.
Yeah,
but
it's a new day. It's a new day. And even though the day looks real dark with the pandemic, I'm gonna bring it up to now, looks real dark with, the American politics and the racism that's even more dominant. When you get sick, you got a flu or cold, you get sick, when you know you're going to get well or die is when you're your sickest. So at the sickest point in whatever you're dealing with is when you're going to either live, come out of it, or you're going to go. And that's the time y'all are living in. Y'all living in a time where either you're going to thrive, you're going to live, you're going to do what you got to do, or you're going to go.
Build or destroy.
Yeah, because the elderly, Donald Trump said this, and he is cold-blooded as sound, and he's a New York hustler. He said the old people that got sick was going to die anyway. Sounds cold-blooded.
Yeah.
And this is a dude that's the president.
Yeah, he's saying this.
And then he made another asshole statement. He said people are dying who never died before. What?
Make America great again.
Yeah, this is the dude that they elected president. But Donald Trump was the linchpin. He was the one that said, okay, I'm going to tell y'all how many lies, how much deception y'all really dealing with. Because I don't even know. I'm not down with the club like that.
Yeah.
He's not really an elitist. But he's a dude with wealth. But he's not a dude with old wealth. He don't come from a Anglo-Saxon, Greco-European family. You could tell this dude, he was really a new kid on the block.
Yeah.
But he revealed a lot of things about what was going on. And the so-called conservative, whatever their parties are, the whole thing is a lie meant to control, manipulate the 10%, back to where we were saying, 10%, 85%, 5%, to control and manipulate the masses.
Which is the 85%.
Yeah, and that's why we, the 5%, we say, yo, let us tell y'all what's going on.
Exactly.
And we live in a day and time where a lot of people have become more deaf, dumb, and blind than it was when we came on. At least people still had the revolutionary fighting spirit in the 60s and 50s. And a lot of them were warriors. A lot of them were veterans.
You mentioned to me one time, feed the beast versus kill the beast. Like, I think that's what you're hitting at right now.
Yeah, because people are saying that we can't beat them, so we're going to join them. That's like a snitch. Same principle. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
We can't beat them, so we're going to join them. And I'm like, or being a pet. A pet is an animal that is controlled by a human being. And animals are meant to be animals. So black folks want to be pets. They want a bone, they want to be patted on their head, they want somebody to throw them a stick and run and go get it, fetch. They don't want to be free just to be whatever it is that's in their nature, and they've been trained that way so hard. I'm going to tell you a story that I've read. And I read a lot because I love libraries and I love reading. It's a story about training a sheepdog, right? They say to train a sheepdog, what you do is you take a puppy, right? And you put that puppy as soon as he's born with the sheep. And the sheep will give him milk, will make him strong and feed him. So as this puppy grows older, even though it's a dog, it thinks it's a sheep. So if somebody come and attack the sheep, he will defend the sheep to his death. But also, a lot of those dogs that are trained like, they don't even bark because they never learn how to bark.
Exactly.
And black people are like the sheepdog. They're already ready to defend and protect the master before they even defend themselves. And that's actually how a sheepdog is trained.
That's crazy.
But you think about it, if I put you with a bunch of sheep and all you see is sheep, all you hear is sheep, the sheep feed you, you get milk from the sheep, you think you're a sheep, but you're a dog. I want to give a little more information about who I am and what I've been able to accomplish with y'all.
110%.
With young folks. One of the greatest things I've been able to do is influence children, young people. All your cousins.
Yep.
And your cousins' cousins.
Exactly.
Who are, you know, dynamic young beings. You know, I try to move y'all to activism. To be active in ways that produce a greater future for yourself. So we was told, and I followed the script somewhat, to go to school, get an education, or get a trade. So I followed that path somewhat. I went to school, I got degrees, and I got a bachelor's degree in human resource management. I got 2 associate degrees, one just a liberal arts degree, and I got another degree in hotel restaurant management and food service. So with those skills, I was able to show young people after my sojourner through the federal government system, who sat me down for some of the activities I was involved in, which stemmed from the 60s and 70s. And what I learned is that you have to just offer opportunities.
110%.
See what I'm saying? You know, and they got a commercial out that says, everybody has the ability to skill, but everybody don't get the opportunity. So you got to expose people to information, to experiences that improve their perspective on what they want their life to look like.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I managed to do is a lot of activism. You saw it in Poughkeepsie.
Exactly.
You know, I was able to establish a historical black library there, which is presently called the AJ, pardon me, brother AJ. The AJ Myers, his name is Professor AJ Myers. We renamed the library after him, or now it's called the AJ Myers African Roots Center. That's one thing I was able to be a part of. Another thing I was able to do is things like this here.
Black History Month Expo.
And since I had the knowledge and since I went through the changes and the growth and development, I try to let young folks know that you got to define your culture. You got to define what's relevant to you.
110%.
As opposed to what the 10% rich slave makers of the poor define as relevant. In so doing, I was able to meet, greet, speak to a lot of scholars, a lot of educators, and folks from the street as well.
Exactly.
Because you know from in Poughkeepsie, I gave 2 of the biggest events that ever took place in the city of Poughkeepsie was the women's basketball tournament. I got pictures of you there.
I need that.
And also the Black Prestige Awards. And the Black Prestige Awards were awards that honored community leaders. I was able to be a part of that. And I was able to learn that, I'm gonna show y'all another picture. Give me a second. right back. This is a not-for-profit organization, the logo of a not-for-profit organization that me and some other brothers created, because we learned that if you're dealing with corporations and you're not a corporation, you're at a disadvantage. So it's good to establish your own corporations. Most educational schools are 501c3. Most of the self-help programs in the community have 501c3 status. Most churches are 501c3. So if you go to a gunfight with a knife, you don't have a chance to win.
Yeah.
So cooperation means you got a group of people that are cooperating with a particular mission. So when you create a corporation, here's the difference in business. A corporation takes at least 3 people. A sole proprietorship is only 1 people. And then you got a partnership, 1 person. I mean, a partnership is 2 people. Sole proprietorship is 1 person. So there's 3 phases to doing business. One is you have your own sole proprietorship, LLC. Next is you can have a partnership, which is 2 entities. It doesn't just have to be 2 people. It could be 2 entities, 2 businesses. And then you have corporations. And corporations are groups of 3 or more people who have come together to decide that we're going to go take on a mission. And most organizations that have a large following group of people, they're corporations.
Exactly.
One of the simplest examples, I tell people, young people like y'all, I say, the Salvation Army is a corporation. It's a not-for-profit corporation. It's tax exempt. One thing about having a tax exempt status is it's not that you don't hire people, you don't create jobs. You know, what you do, you have to use your resources for your mission.
Exactly. Like the NFL.
As opposed, yeah. And one of the greatest NFL not-for-profit corporations is the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers is a corporation, not-for-profit, that's owned by the citizens of Green Bay.
Oh, I never knew that.
The team is owned by the city, by the citizens of that city.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, they are. The Green Bay Packers still hold that status as opposed to some of the other teams. And the NFL and the NBA, those are not-for-profits, not the teams. The teams are franchises. See what I'm saying? But the NFL, the National Football League, or the NBA, they were established as not-for-profits. So the hat I'm wearing, which is a Mets hat with the logo, the hat you wearing, which is a Hawks hat, those emblems and symbols are what the corporations represent.
Exactly.
The owners buy the franchises. But they still fall under the banner of the NFL, the NBA, the NBL. You see what I'm saying? And that's where a bunch of white folks have got together and say, okay, we're going to create a league. like the Justice League.
Yeah.
You know, in the movies. And our mission in the Justice League is to fight crime or, you know, villains, but that's the mission.
Yeah.
In the NBA, the mission is to promote athleticism in basketball. In the NFL, it's the same thing, but the franchises are the actual
businesses.
Corporate, well, really businesses that fall under the corporation. So when they say you can't, any reproduction, any symbolism, you know, that you're not, it's not the team, it's the NFL that'll come step 2.
Exactly.
Because they saying this is our stuff and y'all repping our stuff, you know. So what I learned in business is that you're stronger when you go with a group. They say if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with a group. So in the science of what we initially lived culturally, it was more about the group than about the individual.
110%, the community.
It was more about representing, like the father said. He said, I also, none of us is stronger than all of us.
No one person is stronger than the group.
Yeah, the best example of that is Coach Carter, a movie with Samuel Jackson.
Yep.
Where he puts the kid on the court who's the best player. He's the best, most outstanding player, but he put him on the court and said, okay, you got to play against these 5 guys by yourself. And this is when the kid learns that the team is more powerful than the individual. And you're not scoring for yourself, you're scoring for the team.
110%.
You see what I'm saying? Even though when you negotiate your contract, but still it's about the team. Even in individual sports like boxing or tennis, it's still a group of people, trainers, people around you. You're not really, you're on the court solo, you're in the ring solo, but you really have to have people around you that is a part of your team that makes you more powerful.
Exactly.
And the best players don't make the best team. I learned that from watching the LA Lakers against, I think it was the Detroit Pistons, when the LA Lakers had all the stars.
Oh yeah, that's when they had Karl Malone and all of them. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and Detroit didn't have no stars.
Yeah.
But they beat them in the championship.
Yeah, I remember that. When they had like Gary Payton.
I won money on that. Yeah, they had Karl Malone. They was loaded.
Yeah.
They was loaded, but they had what's my man, the glove,
Gary Payton.
Gary Payton.
Yeah.
They had drafted a lot of players, but when the championship jumped off, you didn't know about what's my man, the point guard. These was dudes that didn't have no all-star status.
I think that was Chauncey Billups, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Mr. Big Shot. You know, that's what
Yeah.
So we have to get back to really understanding how powerful the team is.
Exactly.
So what I did is we developed a not-for-profit corporation, got a long name called the Association for Afrocentric Development. And our mission primarily was to express, convey our natural, historical, cultural way of thinking and doing things.
110%.
Another one of our missions was we said we're gonna push cultural literacy because I was able to train white people in cultural literacy by embarrassing them, scholars who said, yeah, we know. I said, well, y'all ever heard of the Juneteenth? And they looked at me and said, the Juneteenth? I said, yeah, the Juneteenth. You know, y'all got degrees and y'all professors and stuff. And they was like, no, we never heard of that. I said, y'all never heard of the Juneteenth. And the Juneteenth is the oldest national celebration of Black people in America.
Exactly.
And I was able to get the mayor of Poughkeepsie and I have that proclamation, to sign a proclamation declaring that in the city of Poughkeepsie, the Juneteenth would be celebrated and paid for by the city of Poughkeepsie. And I try to give it to y'all and say, yo, y'all can work this.
Yeah.
Because now once the city recognizes, and now all of a sudden, here it is. I think I did that like maybe 20 years ago. Here it is, 20 years later, the government is saying that Juneteenth is a national holiday. A lot of times when you before your time and you got vision and insight, you feel isolated, but you still got to go with what you see.
Exactly. Speaking of this, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Speaking of the COVID-19 pandemic and situation, we spoke about this over the phone. You was like, it's a psychotechnological crisis. Like, dive into that psychological, technological crisis.
Well, once you have used all, one thing about a magician, he tries to save his best tricks for last. Especially when it's white magic.
Yeah.
You know, not Magic Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Like, The same thing they did with Eminem, if you compare it to hip hop. All of a sudden, you got a white rapper that has usurped the culture of all the black kids that created. But this dude is he's a white magician, and he don't even know nothing about the true culture. So with the pandemic, historically, this has happened before, but it's the control and to put fear in the 85%. To have them thinking that if they don't listen to the 10%, they either not gonna get no money, they're gonna lose their jobs, they're gonna lose their life, and fear will kill you quicker than a bullet. There's a book called As a Man Thinketh, and it says that what you think and what you dwell on is gonna control how you operate. It also controls your nervous system. Anxiety and fear breaks you down. But I tell people, I say, what the fuck, excuse me, what the hell do we have to lose? That's why I look at black people. We say, y'all worried about, y'all ain't got shit. You don't own no wealth, no real wealth. You don't control your cities. You don't control your communities. What you got to lose? Well, I might lose my job. You know, I said, yeah, maybe that'll teach you to create a job. And that's what it has done with a lot of people. Economically, it has made a lot of people realize that they can do more for themselves.
100%.
Because a lot of people didn't think that they could go without work, but they was forced to stop working. Now they saying if you don't get a vaccination, you want to be persona non grata, which only means that you're the person that is separated from the rest of the people. And if you allow that thought to inundate and to control your behavior, now you're under a psychological form of hypnosis, which makes it easy for me to suggest what you should do. Because that's all hypnosis is the power of suggestion. So in this pandemic, a lot of folks is under the power of suggestion. And that's why you see these professors, doctors, elitists, athletes, everybody on TV saying, take the vaccine. I'm not saying you make your own, if you can't decide for yourself about your own body, if I say, let me inject you with some shit, then I can come back and say, well, let me do something else to you. Bend over. You no longer are taking control of the knowledge of your cipher. Back to what we talking about.
100%.
You're not looking at the people, places, and things that make you strong. You're looking at what someone else tells you. And this has been one of the most critical times, psychologically, socially, that in my 70 years I've ever witnessed. Where people are really scared to death. They fear. This is worse than when people was getting bit by dogs and sprayed by water hoses. The people of that time was more courageous to resist than the people of this damn time. All these different people get on and say, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. So now we have a time where the separation is saying we drawing a line. These are the people that's gonna conform. These are the people that's gonna go with whatever we say, and these are the people that's not. And we're gonna create an agenda for both. So you gotta be more guarded now. You have to be more aware of what you're expressing. And I go to the doctor, you know, I go to the clinic, whatever, and they say, oh, you wanna take the vaccine? I say, oh, I took it.
2 assassinations.
Yeah.
2 assassinations.
Character assassination, and then physical assassination. That's how they killed off the people who speak for the people. When you gotta be an enemy to your oppressor and a friend to the oppressed. So when you become that, they said, we gotta get rid of you.
Give me an example.
Martin Luther King.
Okay.
Martin Luther King is moving around the country talking about civil rights, talking about voting rights, talking about different rights. They wiretap his hotels. Come to find out Martin Luther King, every once in a while, want to swing. So he got some hooker, that they sent. They sent her in his room getting the swerve on, and they recording this. So they threatened him. They say, if you don't do what we say the way we say it, we're going to publicize this information. Same thing with recently locked up and incarcerated Bill Cosby. We're going to assassinate your character. Oh, you was getting some power you from white girls and y'all was using drugs, and it's 40 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
That's what was going on. And the white girls was groupie. He didn't tie nobody up and inject nothing into them. They came to hang out. Mike Tyson, they did the same thing to. Locked him up because some girl said that the easiest way to assassinate somebody's character is to use these so-called moral issues where he had sex with a woman outside of his marriage. So now they just knocked off Cuomo with the same thing, the governor of New York.
Yep.
And once we assassinate your character, now we can isolate you, and if we kill you, nobody cares. He wasn't no good no way. R. Kelly, no good nigga messing with little girls, whatever, because I don't know what happened. But if we tell the people enough that it happened, we hypnotize them.
Michael Jackson.
Then Michael Jackson, the list is just crazy, stupid. We go all the way back to Sam Cooke, who sang A Change Is Gonna Come. You'll remember that song.
I know that song.
Okay. Sam Cooke was the first one in the entertainment game, in the music game, that wanted to form his own company, his own music company. Now, all of a sudden, Sam Cooke, as fly as he is, women and whatever, he gets killed by a woman in a hotel in California. But we assassinate his character first. And once, like I said again, then Bill Cosby, how many people loved Bill Cosby until they said he was fucking them white girls? They loved Bill. They watched all the series, the Cosby Cartel, everything. But then as soon as they said that he was getting down with Miss Ann's daughter, as we say back in the day, now he's a dirty, low-life scoundrel. But what about all the good that this man did?
Exactly. But
all the black people he had working, all the stuff he produced. People are more inclined, especially our folks, to go with the negative. They are quicker to destroy each other than they are to build each other.
You said one time. You said one time. It's always drama and controversy. It's always drama and controversy when change is at play.
That's right.
Break that down.
Always. In any situation, let's look at the seasons. I'm gonna use nature. In the next 30 days, when you look outside, you're gonna see colors. Leaves are changing. The dynamic is changing. And you're gonna have to deal with and look at what you gotta do different. You gotta put on a hoodie, a shirt, and this is adding more to what's required of you. And most people don't like, we're creatures of habit. We have a tendency not to want to change.
Exactly.
And one of the lessons I learned, the dude said to me one day, it was a little girl that liked me. She was fine too, out of Medina. But she was a youngster, she had these little habits. And the old dude that was working on the job with me, he said, Just, you could change her. I said, let me tell you something. If I could change people, I'd be rich. Because I put a sign up saying, I change people. And if I could change them to what they wanted to be or what I wanted them to be, I would be wealthy.
100%.
Change is an internal force that is hard at work.
Okay.
But because the planet Earth is spinning and time is turning, change is inevitable. It's how you approach it and how you deal with it.
Okay.
That's going to make a difference in your life.
That's peace. Self-determination. Let's end off on that. Let's end off on that. Self-determination.
Give me a little more to feed into.
We always spoke, like you spoke earlier about know thyself, and like your non-for-profit, know thyself, self-determination. Can't expect no one to do more for you than you do for yourself. No one knows what's better for you than you know for yourself. You always tell me that. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Like, what's your
Well, one thing if somebody else is telling you who you are, identifying who you are, determining who you are, then you're under their control. It's just like the transition in names that you see black men go through. Historically, Malcolm Little, Malcolm X, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Lewis, I forgot his last name, now Minister Farrakhan. Mm-hmm. When you make a decision about who you are and how you want to give what your gift to the world is, then you identify yourself and that empowers you. I went from being who my parents said I was, which wasn't bad. They had some insights, spiritual insights, to recognizing who I really was. I changed my name, I changed my culture, I changed my way of life, I changed my way of eating. When I can do that, now I have some control. Even on a small level, I have some influence over my own existence. This is an acronym. It's an African saying. Know thyself. Once you really know who you are and you have identified what your passions are, what your shortcomings are, what your strengths are, you can identify who you are to others. And then in turn, you have a better position to work from.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's just why the white man or the European or the racist system called you boy, nigga, called you all kind of names that weren't who you were, so that you wouldn't empower yourself. Exactly. And self-determination is one of the fundamental principles. I'm gonna give you a movie. Coming to America. I'm gonna close with this. They in the barbershop, and Eddie Murphy is got the old Jewish look. He got all the different parts he's playing. Yeah. And they're arguing about Muhammad Ali, right? And one of the white men, one of the old black dudes say, his mama named him Cassius Clay. I'm gonna call him Cassius Clay. You know, it was a funny scene. Yeah. But the white man, or the old Jewish dude who's being portrayed by Eddie Murphy, says, a man has the right to be called what he wants to be called. That's a right. You know, to call yourself and be yourself. But it took the old Jewish dude, and Eddie Murphy played that part good, to make that statement to the black men who was saying, yeah, his mama called him Clay, I'm calling Clay. You know what I mean?
So your name is Lord Just. Break that down. How'd you get there?
Well, what I did is I looked at myself internally and externally. And I'm gonna try to make this short. A lot of people don't like the Lord part, especially Christians, because they actually think that the Lord is representative of the creative being, when in reality, Lord is only a title, and it really comes from the word Ra, like the beginning of your name, which represents, if we go back in antiquity, Ra represents the sun, the energy of light, all right? But then it went from Ra to to Arabic to Rab, R-A-B. Then it went from there to Rabbi in the Jewish dialect. And a rabbi is only a teacher or someone you look to for guidance. Mm-hmm. The sun is something you look to for energy. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, I'm going to be the Lord or the sun or the rays of what is just, what is right. Not justice, but what is right. Because there's a difference between justice and just. Just in linguistic terms, but just means to be fair or to be right. Mm. Justice means to administer something, either penalty or reward for something done. So I said, well, I don't want to be the one to judge. I just want to be the one to give the example. Peace, son. I want to be one to give the example. Oh, let my son say peace, son. Peace. They will at least see your
peace,
face quick. They go one of your
Peace, Bismarck. Appreciate you. Thank you. So listen, wrap it up, man. Tell me, give me one for the road. Tell the people how they can get in touch with you, to discuss.
Well, you know, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. I'm through y'all. More likely, I'm gonna improve my technical presentation. This is one way of doing it.
Yep.
And like I said again, I'm gonna give my last illustration of things that I'm doing and get to the game. This is my most recent project. It's called Pay Us.
Yo, man, you can't make it up. We could probably cut this out, right? Yeah. Come on, man. You supposed to have it ready to go.
Yeah, I always keep one of these in effect. And this is the same thing that I really promote this because black folks have done the work.
Bring it up so we can see what's at the bottom. Black labor matters. Okay. And these are designs that you sell as well, correct?
Yeah, this design I came up with in ourselves. But the real thing is about the movement. And that's what I wanted to remind you of. An event is a square. Think of this. A movement is a cipher. Your brand should be a movement.
Exactly.
Because with a wheel, you can keep rolling. With a square, you can't do it.
Exactly.
So don't just make this an event, make it a movement.
110%.
And movement is what keeps life flowing. Because if the earth start rotating, we all dead.
That's peace.
On that note, I say peace.
Yo, what's your email, man?
Well, my Facebook page is Lord Just Gratis.
Okay.
I use gratis because historically, my great-grandfather on my father's mother's side was he was a free black man. And they used the term gratis when they referred to him in Spanish. Because gratis means free. You've been different places, it's duty free.
Yeah.
So gratis only means you don't have to pay because you already paid.
Exactly.
So I use Lord Just Gratis, and I can be contacted. My email is LORDSAVEYOUR, Lord Savior, at yahoo.com.
That's peace. Once again, man, I'm sorry.
I appreciate you having me.
No, man, listen, you were supposed to be the, if you guys don't know, like Lord Just was supposed to be the first person on my podcast, the first guest, even before I came on myself to introduce myself, because once again, like he's been that influential in my life, and I just wanted you guys to get some of the information that I get on a day-to-day basis. I check in with this brother every day, every other day, when things is good, when things is bad. Like, like I said, it's my spiritual father, and I love him and I appreciate him, and I wanted you guys to get some of the game and the information that I was getting as well. So once again, I appreciate you.
The greatest thing I've ever been able to do in my life is y'all. It's through what y'all have grown into, what I'm witnessing. I'm saying, at least y'all ain't no poop butt, numbskull, idiot young people. Y'all want to do some good.
Yeah, nah, that's the plan.
Y'all want to see some good things happen. It ain't a lot of that going around, man, amongst your peers, black man.
Exactly.
They twisted like a New York pretzel. A lot of your peers is done off, man.
Yeah.
At an early age, and they have no direction, no energy, no spirit of change or activism. And I'd be like, what the hell is y'all gonna do? And you can see it more than I can see it because you're around it.
Exactly.
But y'all need to support each other. I'm gonna say this, and if y'all need to support what this young man is doing, y'all need to get behind folks that are doing things that don't be so quick to spend money with Gucci and Hoochie and Bellucci and Louis Vuitton. Spend your money with yourself, with your brothers and your family. Don't be so quick. We grew up in a time where I wouldn't wear something that advertised somebody that didn't care about me. Mm. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'd like to have, because I like New York, it's just the Mets. But I really don't like to promote people who I know are not doing anything to promote me.
Exactly.
That's equality. Y'all, we got to have that equality amongst ourselves where we look out for one another, because if not, ain't nobody looking out for us.
110%.
Real talk. And again, I got to get to this game because I got some wagers in effect.
All right, man. Take it easy, man. I love you, man.
I appreciate you, man. And again, man, keep doing what you're doing, man.
No, I'm on it.
Don't let nothing, don't let, ain't no stopping you when your mind is made up, man.
110%.
All right?
All right. I appreciate you, man.
Right.
Peace.
Peace. Love you, man.
Love you more. And once again, that's episode 3, True Story, the podcast. That was Lord Just. Make sure y'all tap in with him. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Until the next time. Peace.
The coke cheaper, the flow ether. Feel like Broadway 9-7 coming out the speaker. Talking blue jeans, scheme type of drug money. Cross the street from City College, D's ran a plug from me. Chinese spot, waiting on Poppy. 4 wings, whole thing, bout to cook it and chop it. Quick stop to the baggy spot, right by the Iron Horse. Then put Suge in a cab and send her up north. Oh, what a feeling when it touched down. Pull up on a block, free samples of that bust down. Fiend says a 9, maybe 10, but it's the best thing smoke. I hop out, you break fast or get your egg cracked open.